Hello, Buckeye Nation. I'm a little late dropping this recap video, but what a hardcore, gritty win that was on Saturday. I told you all how nervous I was leading up to that game, and I remained nervous until the final minute of the game. Finally, as the clock ticked down to 0, I let out a huge exhale that I'd had pent up inside me for a while. I don't know about you all, but I didn't just like that win. I loved almost everything about it. And I'll dive more into that right after this intro. Welcome to Buckeye Football Fangirl. If this is your first time here, my name is Lisa, and I'm the gal behind this channel. Before I get into it all, I want to give you all a massive thank you for tuning into my video last week. The amount of watches it got was super encouraging, and you all blew up the comment section, which is personally my favorite thing about making these videos. Interacting with each and every one of you in either the comment section below or on Twitter. I'm just a small town girl from Ohio, and while I live in a big city all the way across the country at the moment, it still blows my mind that I'm making videos and truly amazing people like you are actually watching them. And I love it because it helps me feel more connected to my roots, talking with you about our favorite pastime, Ohio State football. And so let's talk about that game. I realize I'm really late this week in dropping this video, and I apologize. It's just been one of those crazy weeks. As I hinted at earlier, I didn't just like that game, I loved it. I loved it for a couple main reasons. The first being that the Buckeyes had to earn that win. That game was one of the grittiest wins that we've seen the Buckeyes churn out in a while. As Josh Routson tweeted, "We didn't win with flair and finesse. We won by lining up in the trenches and playing man ball when it mattered most. It came down to who was tougher. That's Buckeye football." Adversity is a word that gets thrown around a lot when it comes to college football, and in my opinion, it can sometimes feel overused. However, that's the best way that I can think to describe what the Buckeyes had to push through to get that win. Losing JSN in the first quarter was absolutely devastating. I was heartbroken for him as a player after how hard he's worked. To see him trying to play, but obviously not himself, and limping after that cheap shot was like I just wanted to rip my heart out. I felt so bad for him. Like in this tweet from JSN season, I would have given him my leg too if it meant that he could get out there and make plays. JSN can have my leg, bro. I work in finance. I don't need it. With the 7-Eleven 24/7 closed for business, it took a little while to give in to what was needed to win the game and grind it out. And to get the win, there were contributions from many players that were not on the list of the most hyped up players going into the season. This leads me to my second reason of why I loved this win. The names on everyone's lips at the end of the game were not the names that we thought would be. Like many people, I love a good Cinderella story. And it kind of felt like a Cinderella story for a lot of the players who were hot on everyone's lips after the game. I was absolutely ecstatic when Xavier Johnson had the back-to-back touchdown catch and then special teams tackle on kickoff to secure good field position, because he's been quietly putting in the work and finally got his moment to shine. I am thrilled Lathan Ransom was on fire on Saturday after he worked his way back from an intense leg injury that had many wondering if he'd be able to play at the start of the season. I loved hearing Michael Hall and Tommy Eichenberg's names called over and over as they stepped up in a big way and wreaked havoc on Notre Dame's offense. And Miyan Williams with the hands on that clutch catch and then absolutely bullying his way down the field on that final scoring drive for the Buckeyes when they needed it made my heart so happy. Some of these names were thrown out preseason, but it felt like if they played second fiddle to the other playmakers on the team. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it took the entire team working together and everyone else grinding and doing their assignments for those players to be able to shine. However, I love when the ending of the story is not what you expected, but equally just as good as you thought it might be. And that's how I felt after Saturday. It was a truly incredible team effort that we got to witness on Saturday. However, the low-scoring game and the way that the Buckeyes won leads me into the third reason I love this game. The national convo about the Buckeyes should only continue to feed into their hunger to keep winning. After all the hype about the high-scoring offense Ohio State has all offseason, to only score 21 points and only win by 11 points actually makes me happy because I think this will help keep them hungry. They got the win, but they still walked away from the game with something to prove. I think this could keep the whole team playing with an edge and with the same hunger and energy that we saw from the defense, which is not a bad thing in my opinion. You and I know that the offense can do more than what we saw it do on Saturday. However, the national attention is focused on just the numbers, and if I'm being honest, they don't sound that impressive. I mean, we already saw Ohio State drop in the polls after beating the number 5 ranked team. What's that about? However, as JJ said in this tweet, I'm not going to reply to Buckeye naysayers. They'll see. Get your popcorn ready, buckle your seatbelts, and make some room in the trophy case. I like the sound of that. The way I see it, it just means that there's more fuel on the fire for the Buckeye offense to show that they can live up to all the preseason hype. Speaking of hype, there was one element of the preseason hype that exceeded my expectations, and that was of the new and improved defense. And from now on, I've got to stop doing air quotes because it truly is new and improved, and leads me right into my fourth reason. The defensive hype did not disappoint. I have to admit, I was mentally bracing myself not to be too let down if the defense didn't look fixed during the first game. Call it what you want. I just didn't want to be disappointed as a fan if there were still some holes that needed to be plugged up after this game. I was shocked, in the most pleasant of ways, of course, by what we saw defensively. And I hope I'm not overreacting because it was just one game. But in my mind, the defense lived up to all the hype that we heard about it. They came out hungry and with an energy that we haven't seen in far too long. Perhaps the most impressive thing we witnessed was something many of you pointed out on Twitter after the game, including Joseph D. in his tweet. Ohio State won a game where they only scored 21 points. Let that sink in for a second. Last season, the offense only scoring 21 would likely have led to the Buckeyes losing this game with that Swiss cheese defense that we had last year. What a difference it was on Saturday. As Buckeye Fett tweeted, 41 straight minutes without letting up a score in a tough top 5 matchup. This is the defense we've been waiting on. And because I can't resist a super cheesy joke, as Bucknut14 tweeted, Jim knows what he's doing. If the defense stays as hungry as they were during the Notre Dame game, it's going to be so fun watching them wreck offenses all season long. I'm curious, what were your thoughts on that game against Notre Dame? Leave me a comment below and let me know if you loved the game like I did, or if you had some different feelings or concerns about what you saw on the field. All right, it's already Thursday when I'm recording this because it's just been one of those crazy busy weeks. So that's all I'm gonna say about the game last weekend because we have another game coming up in just a few days. Let's spend a quick minute looking ahead to that game we have coming up on Saturday. We play Arkansas State, and we should hopefully get to watch our team show off a bit on the field. If they don't, then I'm gonna have to take everything back that I just said earlier in this video. So who is Arkansas State, you ask? Arkansas State is part of the Sun Belt Conference, and Ohio State has never played them before. Last week, they faced off against Grambling State and beat them into submission to the tune of 58-3. They are led by head coach Butch Jones, who has been head coach since 2021. Coach Jones started his college coaching career as a graduate assistant at Rutgers in 1990 and has made stops during his coaching career at Wilkes, Ferris State, Central Michigan, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Tennessee, and Alabama. He has made an immediate impact at Arkansas State on the recruiting trail and through leveraging the transfer portal, bringing in a recruiting class in 2022 that was the highest ranked in school history, and that even snagged first place in the Sun Belt Conference. Among some of the transfers he's brought in since becoming head coach is starting quarterback James Blackman, who started his quarterback career at FSU in 2017 and transferred to Arkansas State last year. He has a career average completion rate of 60.5%. He's a passing quarterback and has actually accumulated a total of negative 60 yards rushing over his entire career. His go-to wide receiver last week was Champ Flemings, an Oregon State transfer, who he connected with for a total of 122 yards. Interestingly, Fleming's first college football game was actually in Ohio Stadium during the 2018 season opener when Oregon State played Ohio State. That was also the very first game Ryan Day served as acting head coach. Just a little good to know trivia for you all. Running back Johnny Lang, who transferred in from Iowa State last year, tallied up the most rushing yards last week, with 124 yards on the ground. Some of you might recognize the name of the running back who got the second highest amount of rushing yards on the ground last week, Brian Snead, who started his college career at Ohio State in 2018 and was then dismissed from said team. All in all, looking at their stats from just one game that they played so far this season, they seem to lean more heavily on the run game than on their passing game. On defense, they were able to lock things down and hold Grambling State to only 3 points last weekend, which is an impressive and competent performance. Some key contributors were linebacker Jaden Harris and defensive end Kieran Crawford, who led the team with 5 tackles each last week. Other players to note on defense are defensive end T.W. Ayers, who forced a fumble, and safety Eddie Smith, who contributed with an interception. All this to say, they've only played one game. It's hard to know who the real playmakers are on Arkansas State's team this year with so little to go off of. So, am I nervous about the game this weekend? Well, nah. Oh my goodness, no. No. If this game isn't lopsided by halftime with the backups rolling in, that's when I will start to get real nervous for the Buckeyes for the rest of the season. Because with the line at somewhere around 43.5 points favoring the Buckeyes, this should be an easy one. Our beloved Buckeyes should be able to go out there and have some fun doing what they do on both sides of the ball. While I get why some fans may not get as excited about watching these piece of cake games, I'm going to thoroughly soak it up and enjoy the fact that I'm not biting my nails the entire game. For those of you who are going to the game, I hope you have a blast and enjoy your time at the shoe, worry-free. I'm curious, what are your thoughts going into this game this weekend? How do you think things are going to play out this weekend and for the rest of the season? Leave me a comment below and let me know. All right, that's all I've got for you this week. I'll catch you on the other side of the game. Oh,